I hate to do the curse of having to follow, what is it, puppies and children you never want to have to follow, and I'm going to make our next speaker do that. But I know he's got a great closing message for tonight. He's really going to bring more relevance to why this approach to teaching and learning is so critical beyond schools as well. So Steffen Kuehr is a local entrepreneur. He started a company here called Tech Tailor Incorporated recently. He's been involved in a local family business for many years, but this is a recent spin-off of that. He's going to tell you a little bit about Sonoma USA, and the business model and the approach to what they're doing is both amazing from an environmental and sustainability standpoint, but also it really does illustrate why all of these skills that we're practicing ourselves here and that we're hoping that we can bring back to students in the classroom are truly so critical. So without further ado, I want to introduce Mr. Steffen Kuehr.
Well, it is indeed hard to follow you guys. Awesome job. Plus the fact that I'm the only obstacle between you guys and the taco truck and the cool bedroom. So please bear with me. I know it's the last session of the day. My name is Steffen Kuehr. I'm the CEO and founder of Tech Tailor. We're based on Santa Rosa Avenue, so it's really just a minute up the road. And it was very exciting for me to learn about this new space and the education event going on here. And yeah, I contacted Dan, and yeah, we clicked right away, and here I am. I found a great statement from Barry Katz, lifelong educator, and I think the statement was from the documentary made about the Maker movement. We're caught between two opposing forces: our tendency to produce a lot of stuff, more stuff than we ever need. And that's especially true to the apparel and textile world. At the same time, we have this human ability to make stuff and the drive to design and create new things. So we have to find a balance between those two. My opinion, my take on it is we definitely need to foster the ability that all of our children have to make things, and that drive, that urge to experience and explore. And it's our job, our generation that's in charge right now, to educate ourselves, to figure out what is the status quo, where are we going, set new standards, set new values of where we want our maker movement to go, and basically teach those values to the kids, to the makers of the future. So, big responsibility we have here to create a sustainable future of making stuff. I grew up in Germany, late 70s, early 80s, and we were not housebound. We were out all day long, and for us it was normal. A group of 5, 6, 7, 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds to just leave the house and be gone for hours, just play in the sticks and show up for lunch, leave the house and be back for dinner. And that was the normal for us. We were just learning to be independent, to just play, to create stuff, build stuff in the woods, just get dirty, and the word pretend, I hear that. I have 3 little kids, a 2-year-old, 4.5-year-old, and a 6-year-old, and I think the word pretend is one of the most heard words. It doesn't work as well when I try to get to pretend it's bedtime, or it's pretend it's time to get ready to do anything, but the other way it works in an extremely creative manner. Getting a bit older, I was fascinated by putting things together. I loved those plastic motorcycles that came in a gazillion pieces that you had to put together, paint and cut the cables and connect them and so on. Fischer Technik, it's also a German toy, but I'm sure you guys know that stuff too. It taught me to build stuff, motor skills, but also to occupy myself, to just keep myself busy, to not be dependent on anybody entertaining me all day long. And kids nowadays tend to have a very short attention span. It's hard for them to sit down and do something, focus on something. So I think teaching kids early, letting them get into projects that they enjoy and that they can really drive and thrive in, and to just learn to have that own time to keep themselves busy is an important step. My career, however, took me into a different direction. I ended up studying marketing and business, and started working in the mobile tech world. I worked for T-Mobile for over 12 years, and Datacom, which is also related to Deutsche Telekom, in Germany, in Austria, London, and then since 2007 I've been here in the US. and mainly launching mobile data services, the first mobile internet services, so very virtual, data-related stuff, not so close to what I'm doing now. 6 years ago, my father-in-law decided it's time for him to retire. My in-laws built a manufacturing business up here on Santa Rosa Avenue about 25 years ago. They came from Iran in the 80s. During the Iran war, they had enough and packed up and left with whatever they had at the time and started from scratch with a few $1,000s in their pockets, 2 kids, and built what is truly the American dream. Just starting to work in different facilities and build up their own manufacturing space. They launched a brand called Vigilance Protective Equipment, BPE USA. They developed protective gear, knee pads, elbow pads back in '99. They met with the military, and the military approached them based on the gear they were making for sports protection. And they developed the military specification for knee and elbow pads for the Army. And over the last 15 years, up here in Santa Rosa Avenue, we've produced about 5 million pairs of knee and elbow pads for the US Army, the Marine Corps, other law enforcement units. We branched out into work safety gear with about 40, 50 Ace hardware stores, lumber stores. American Airlines uses our gear, and it's all made right here. 3 years ago, my mother-in-law had another creative idea for a dog raincoat. It didn't look anything like this item here, but we looked into it and we figured the pet market is a $60 billion market annually, just in the United States, 60 billion. So we figured, okay, let's give it a go. And we started playing around. We have some really talented and creative seamstresses at our factory. And we turned out this little raincoat that solves a lot of issues that dog owners have, saying their dogs don't want to walk in the rain and so on. We got a utility patent on this product. Our design patent is pending. So that was the second kind of pillar for the business that we developed. The third pillar that we've been running is basically contract sewing. There's a limited amount of companies around here in the Bay Area that still do cut and sew work. So we started taking on more jobs. We make stuff private label for companies like Snap-on Tools. We make parkers for high school swim teams and sports teams for a company called Parker Pro down from Livermore. Backaline is a company from San Francisco. We've been making their back support belts for over 15 years. And so based on that experience over the last 6 years, I've been learning a lot about the manufacturing business and the apparel and textile industry, and I figured, okay, where are we going from here? What are the next steps? Because it's a pretty kind of old school business, the cutting and sewing business, especially here in the North Bay. There's not many people left. In San Francisco, it's an aging generation of mainly Chinese factories and workers. So something's got to happen here. So what does the future of textile and apparel making look like? What are the challenges locally, globally? Where are we going to go from here? What kind of skills do we need? Locally, I'd say we have a decline in cutting and sewing factories. As I said, San Francisco is aging population of Chinese workers, slowly closing down, retiring. There's just no young generation of sewers or people who want to run or know how to run a manufacturing facility. So aging workforce. Also the cost of living, trying to run a factory out of San Francisco. Real estate's pretty expensive, cost of living is expensive. So those are some of the challenges we face here as well. Sonoma County is not exactly cheap either. And to be honest, there's a limited interest of investors in general in startups and companies that make stuff. Because there's no 15x return in 30 years or 2 years. So obviously with the tech industry down the road, there's much more interesting investment opportunities. They might not be as long lasting or a big bubble, but there's more lucrative ways of making money than the manufacturing industry. And if you look at the general market for apparel and textile, Americans bought about 20 billion garments in 2013, but 97% were made overseas. So we obviously, there's a big gap between making stuff here and supporting the local industry. On a global basis, if you look at the challenges of the textile industry, obviously water consumption, pollution. The textile industry is the second largest polluter of water after the oil industry, and one of the fourth largest industrial water user with over 1.6 trillion gallons of fresh water annually. And if you look at not just the waste of water, but also the impact of polluting the water that runs downstream and ruins the livelihood of millions of people with toxins from the dyeing process. It has a massive impact on agriculture, on people's health, because they depend on the water to wash, cook, and take a bath as well. The human impact is like every few years we see another catastrophe pop up. The last big one, Bangladesh, and I think we had a few more factory incidences. They just, if it's not thousands of people, nobody talks about it for long enough. And it's the same with tragedies like back in Bangladesh where over 1,000 people died. For a few months it's in the press and the big brands come up with some nice explanation of what they're going to do and how they monitor all their suppliers, and everything disappears. And if you look back in history, it's been like this every 5-6 years is a big event, whether it's Gap or whoever, Sarah. It's, nothing has changed really. They just find new manufacturers, new subcontractors that they can outsource the work to and that they officially don't know anything about. So this is a challenge, I think, that is something that needs to be addressed. The other thing is overproduction, and that goes back to the earlier statement. We make a lot of stuff, and especially in the apparel textile industry, with the fast fashion movement. Every few months, new articles come out. If you go to any of the big retail stores or chains, whether it's a Gap or Forever 21, those stores are full. The racks are full of apparel, Ross as well. I mean, there's no way they can sell all this stuff in the time they have to turn it over before the next seasonal stuff comes in. So there's a lot of stuff, after discounting it 70, 80, 90% value, making any margin on it. Stuff gets thrown away. Some companies donate their stuff, but a lot of brands don't want their items diluted, and be sold at a cheap price in a discount store. So they rather trash the stuff, burn it, or throw it in the landfill rather than giving it away for free or cheap. So that's worldwide. About 21 billion pounds of textiles go to the landfill every year. So that's fabrics that got dyed the wrong way in the manufacturing process. That's apparel that we throw away because obviously that $4 t-shirt is not going to last very long. So things get turned over much faster. And in general, I mean, we live in a throwaway society here in the United States. We produce about 260 million tons of garbage every year. That's about 30% of the world's garbage, but we only make up 5% of the world's population. So there's something terribly wrong here, and we have to really look at how we treat materials, how we deal with the stuff that we consume. And I found it good from the One Planet Living movement. There's a good calculation. If everybody lived like Americans, we would need 5 planets to sustain that lifestyle, which we obviously don't have. We have one, and so it's really truly time to rethink how we use our resources. How can we change this industry? I founded Tech Tailor about a year ago with the goal to start my own business and to start it the right way. I set up the company as a legal benefit corporation. We're working on our B Corp certification. Since we're a new startup, we're currently under the B Corp handling status for a year. So we have to prove that we can implement all the things that we put down as ambitious goals. And I think it's the end of this year, beginning of next year, we're going to be audited and hopefully receive our B Corp certification. That way we can kind of anchor all the values that we connect to the business that are important for us. We can anchor those into the DNA of the business and make sure we maintain those values throughout the growth process of our business.
What does B Corp mean?
A B Corp, so you can incorporate your business as a C corporation. It's a standard for-profit corporation. And it usually has a strong focus on making your shareholders happy. That's traditionally the way business is taught. Make money, and however you do it, make money. That's the biggest goal. The benefit corporation is also a for-profit legal entity. And there's I think in about 30 states in the United States, you can incorporate your business as a benefit corporation, which basically doesn't have any impact in the sense of you don't have any tax benefits or disadvantages, but you basically have an obligation to be more transparent about the way you do business. You have to be transparent about the impact you have, not just on your shareholders, but all the stakeholders involved, from the environment, from the community, from your supply chain, your employees. So it has a much wider sense of, you know, doing business or using business as a force for good, not just to make money and get rich. So that was one of our goals, to set up the company that way. And I think, you know, from an educational point of view, maybe it's time to look at the values. How do we teach business? You know, what are the business values we set as a standard? Is it the values of a C Corp to make money at whatever price and make the shareholders happy? Or should the standards that we teach be to build business and use business as a force for good? So I think those are all things. Sounds kind of logical, but I think it would require a big step, a big change in the way we teach and think about building a business. So for us, that means also elevating the traditionally kind of low-paid sewing jobs into something, you know, rewarded as the art it is. You know, sewing stuff, turning our crazy ideas like a raincoat into a beautifully made garment that's gonna last, and it's, you know, it's nicely sewn. That's an art. It's not, you know, it's not just a sewing job. So I think for us, our goal is to involve our employees with a profit sharing plan. You know, try to involve them, eventually also give them some part ownership of the company. So to really build something together, to have that feeling for people. And our workforce is 100% Hispanic. They're all mainly Mexicans. And I think this traditionally nobody's even used to be involved in any decision making, or, you know, deciding how should we do things. You know, we just established a green team, for example, and have people take responsibility for recycling materials and figuring out, you know, how can we reduce the amount of waste we produce, how can we reduce the water we use, and so on. So involving people, you know, getting them, you know, make them feel part of what they build and what we want to achieve. And the same applies for the community we're in. You know, we're working very closely with the EDB and job links on training programs to identify people with sewing skills in the community, to also develop training programs for our employees so that they can learn new sewing skills, for example. And there are funds out there, funds for training to train people you already have on board, to make sure you can pay them higher wages moving forward, to make sure you can give them work if what they traditionally did is not available anymore. So if we take on new projects, they know how to work on those things. At the same time, giving back to the community. Part of the business model, and I'll talk about that a little later, is that we give back a percentage of everything that we sell to local charities. Same applies to the supply chain. We try to buy local. We're part of the Go Local cooperative. We have our Made Local label proudly in every product. And so we try to buy stuff local wherever we can. It's not always the cheapest stuff or the cheapest option, but at the same time, if I know that money stays right here in the community and we make something local, I save on, you know, turnaround time, I save on shipping, and I know I support another manufacturer or supplier right here in the north. And for our customers on the commercial side, B2B, we reduce the impact. So we try to work with companies that also follow, you know, our values, our standards wherever we can. You know, we have a survey that we send out to suppliers to make sure they have the right business ethics. And for our products too, we create unique products that are made proudly in the US, in California. And so, you know, they make a true difference to our customers as well. So my goal is to create a new type of textile and apparel maker. I want to make the North Bay the Bay Area in general is known for a lot of innovation, and I want to make sure that North Bay becomes the innovative hub for textile and apparel manufacturing. Thank you. So our goal is to set new manufacturing standards for sustainable manufacturing, making of fabrics, of textiles, of finished products, and become an enabler for not just entrepreneurs but also big brands and retail chains and the consumer to basically have their products made where they're actually being sold, worn, and used, rather than shipping stuff across the planet, left, right, and center. But you need to build those enablers, because at the moment it's widely not an option. At the same time, we want to push for a shift from wasteful mass production and the throwaway way of life that we live here, to something that's more based on demand, based on actual purchases. So, and it's possible. I mean, that's possible on a consumer level and on a corporate level. So that requires obviously rethinking of materials, considering the product life cycle of your materials. How long are they going to last? What is going to happen after you're done with that material? Can we repurpose it and turn it into something else? And we've gone through these discussions so many times. It's also a hard job to educate buyers. When we try to get back into the American Airlines account, those guys have been buying Chinese-made knee pads. They get pretty cheap stuff. And we try to convince them to go with our products, which are initially more expensive, but they're also much higher quality. They're gel cushion knee pads, so they provide more comfort. People are happier wearing them, and they wear them longer. And to teach a buyer the concept of product life cycle cost, and not just I have a budget X and I have to buy for so many people and I don't care what happens in half a year or at the end of the year, it's challenging, especially in big corporations where buyers change pretty quickly. So there's a lot of mentality change that needs to happen. But eventually, after they used our knee pads in some of the airports for over a year, and the guys were still using the same pair they bought over a year ago, and at the same time they went through 3 buying cycles with the cheap crap, they realized, oh, okay, and people are actually happier with the product too. So they started buying our stuff. But it's a cumbersome process, and we have to do that legwork and hope it persists and hope it lasts in those businesses. So Tech Tailor is basically, we set it up with 2 different focuses. Tech Tailor is going to be the enabler. We're basically developing B2B services, and Sonoma USA is our new brand that we just launched a few months ago with a Kickstarter campaign. That's the Maker brand, B2C, making fun products, and I'll show you some of those in a minute. Tech Tailor's goal, we've seen as a manufacturer, we've seen a lot of demand over the last few years for a wide range of services, all related to what we do. And there's no company that offers you the kind of one-stop shop that allows you to get your product designed, get the patents made, get them graded, get the materials picked and sourced, and then basically help you make the product. So take you through the whole production process from getting your product manufacturing ready or product production ready, producing it, and then even help you with the fulfillment. And so since we have a big facility here, we do that for our own brands. Those are all things that we can offer to our customers. And that's an area where we want to build more capabilities, bring in more technology to streamline those services and workflows to be able to really go from designing a product to printing the fabric on demand, cutting and sewing what is needed and what is ordered. That will allow new businesses, new designers, new entrepreneurs who can't commit to thousands of yards of fabrics when they just want to get started. You have to order, if you want to get custom dyed fabric, you have to order thousands of yards. You're going to end up sitting on that stuff if that one pattern you happen to choose doesn't sell. And if you want to offer more than one pattern, you have to put a lot of money down to commit to fabric. So being able to work with new technology that allows you to just print on demand, print and cut on demand what you need and what you can actually sell, is going to be a big game changer, not just for manufacturers, but also for the entrepreneurs who want to get a new product out. So there's a lot of different ways we can take, or we're planning to be able to work with different input, from supporting virtual inventories. You can launch your store with a range of products without having all that stuff in inventory. You have a virtual inventory of products that we basically have set up in the back end with patterns and all the different SKUs that you want to offer. And then the customer can design that product online, because if you print it on demand, the color doesn't really matter. So let the customer design it, you get an order, the customer orders it, it comes into our facility, we print it, cut it, sew it, ship it. So purchase activated manufacturing or demand-based manufacturing. There's also new technology like 3D body scanners that can be very handy to develop your own virtual closet of stuff that fits you perfectly, things that you like to wear.
What kind of apps
Well, it depends on what the product is, what the materials are. There's a lot of basic products that we can make pretty competitively. The other thing not to forget is we're not competing with China here, because you can deliver a product on demand, customized to what the customer wants, and that's not available anywhere else. So you might pay a higher price point than what you're used to from the retail store, but you also get a custom product that fits you and that looks like what you really want to wear. And you know, I like that idea. I'm someone who, if I find a piece of garment that fits and that is right, I buy 5 of them and I keep wearing different colors. And if I had my own virtual closet and I could select that t-shirt and say, okay, today I want this with a camel print, tomorrow I want, I don't know, a photo of my kids on it, and just reorder it, get it delivered, awesome. Don't have to go out shopping. So just a quick picture of the workflow. Basically, customer order comes in through whatever channel. The patterns basically get laid out, and it's called nesting process. So the patterns get nested to get ready for the print process. So you don't waste much material because everything is automatically laid out to get the best yield out of your cut. You send the stuff to the inkjet printer, print it on a transfer paper, transfer it to the fabric you want to use, put it on a digital cutter, which cuts out exactly the shapes you need with all the markers the sewers need, sew it together, ship it out. Let's move over from the enabling to the maker brand. Sonoma USA is our brand that we launched about 3 months ago. A few weeks ago we wrapped up a Kickstarter campaign. Our goal was to raise $30,000 in 30 days. We hit that goal, we exceeded it, we love it. We raised $31,200. So that was an interesting experience. If you've done a Kickstarter before, respect. I don't think I need to do another one anytime soon. It's very intense, but it was great. It proved our concept. So besides giving us initial funds to get going and get started and make product, it's a good way to prove your concept, to get your product out, get your retail price points in front of customers, get feedback, get press, and get people involved. So we've had a lot of positive feedback, and we're rolling. There's a lot of materials out there, and I've learned that through my last 6 years from all our different manufacturing processes. There's a lot of scrap material, there's a lot of overstock material. There's so much stuff that I've been hoarding because I didn't want to throw it away. It's paid material and it's good stuff. So I had to figure out what I'm going to do with all this stuff. So that was part of what led us to this. But then I looked around and saw, there's so many other materials. There's billboards, banners, fire hose, burlap sacks, truck tarps. There's an endless amount of stuff out there that is valuable. We've put a lot of money and effort into creating and resources into making those materials in the first place. And they're all paid for, and even though they might reach the end of their original life cycle, they're still good. There's a ton of life in those things. And most of those things end up sitting in a landfill for thousands of years anyways. Billboards, vinyl banners, they don't biodegrade. They sit there for tens of thousands of years. So we figured if they're going to be around for that long anyways, we might as well try to keep them around in a more meaningful way. So the design process, we built partnerships with local businesses. Our first big partnership was with Sonoma Raceway. I figured, I know Steve Page, and I talked to him and said, but you guys have tons of banners and billboards out there. What happens with that stuff? He said, well, usually they end up sitting in a warehouse. So they had a warehouse full of stuff sitting there. And that's an interesting experience we've made over the last few months, talking to different people. There's a lot of companies that have banners and billboards and stuff sitting in their closets or warehouses or cabinets. And they're not used for anything anymore because either the logos are not right anymore or they have different dates on them. But nobody wants to throw that stuff away because they're somehow attached to it. It has, it has some sentimental value, and they paid a lot of money to get them made in the first place. So we can help people free up space in their offices. And that was, Steve's first reaction. He's like, awesome, I don't have to pay to get this taken to the landfill, and I get my storage space back. So we went and picked up 4 or 5 pallets of banners, and our process is we weigh and catalog every item we pick up so we can be held accountable and also share our metrics at the end of the year with our partners to say, look, Sonoma Raceway, we just kept 3,000 pounds of vinyl out of the landfill. So that's something you can add to your green program and proudly talk about, so you have a strong marketing message. Clean the stuff, and most of the products like banners, you just have to wipe them down, and they're good to go. And then we turn them into fun and unique products. The fun thing is really every product is unique because everything is cut from a different piece of banner. There's no one product that's going to look exactly like the other. So you get a truly unique piece of, wherever it comes from. If it's a banner from the Raceway, you get a truly unique piece of Raceway history. And that's another marketing message that the Raceway can use to share with their race fans and that we can use to, attract new customers. Here's the process. I talked about it a little, we pick up the stuff, we turn it into fun products, we sell it on our website, and our partners help us promote the stuff. We create a partner page for all the products made from Sonoma Raceway products, so the Raceway can share that link with their target group, so we're not on our own trying to market this. And the other part of our business model is that we give back 5% of our retail sales to a charity that the provider of the material can choose. So besides getting rid of all that stuff and getting the space back and having cool sustainability messages, they also get 5% back for their own Speedway Children's Foundation. So I think it's truly a win-win-win business model because the customer also gets a unique product and they do good for charity with their purchase, and they know nobody else is going to be walking around with the same thing. And let me just show you a few items. We just, besides the Raceway, we just met with the folks at Alvarado Street Bakery. You know those guys? They go through about, you see some wheat berries flying. They go through about 75 of those huge bags every week, and they go in the garbage. Those bags are designed to carry 2,000 pounds of wheat berries. So this is some durable stuff. And we figured, they were pretty happy when we approached